Hi everyone, thanks for watching. I'm Lauren from Guthrie and Ganny, and in this video I wanted to share with you my top picks for a dressmaker's gift guide for 2023. So I'm going to be covering lots of different types of themes of things that I use myself in my own dressmaking, things that I find really useful, things that are going to help you to get organised. Some of them are more investment purchases, some of them are more like little treats and kind of little things that just make your sewing hobby a little bit more fun. But that is one of the great things about sewing or dressmaking and making your own clothes, is that there's always new things to try and different ideas of ways to do things. So hopefully you get some tips and inspiration for maybe some things that you might like to try in the future. Now, I wanted to start off with the scissors, because obviously when you're working with fabric, having a decent pair of scissors is really, really important. So I personally, at home, when I'm doing my own dressmaking, I use the Prim Exact micro serration shears, and I specifically use the 21cm blade. So we do have the micro serration in a couple of lengths. So we've got it in a 25cm blade, and then we've got it in the 21cm blade as well. That's it here. And with the micro serration, basically what it means is that there's like tiny little teeth on the blade of the scissors, and it's really good for helping to just grip the fabric a little bit more. So if you're cutting really fine or slippery fabrics, it can just help to grip them and control them a little bit better. And it is also good if you're cutting out really thick or bulky fabric or lots of layers of fabric, because the theory is that when you go to close the blade of the scissors, rather than the thick layers sort of getting pushed down the blade, the teeth kind of grip onto them. So it's almost like the fabric is kind of getting gripped into the scissors, and it makes for cutting it much, much easier. I've been using the micro serration scissors for years now. I can't say how many years. I want to say probably like at least 5 or 6. I've never sharpened them. I strictly only use them for fabric, and they're still as sharp. I feel like they're still as sharp as the day I started using them, so they do last pretty well. But I guess it just depends on your preference of what length of blade you like. Obviously, the 25cm one is longer, but they are a little bit heavier. They're maybe, potentially, it just depends on your own cutting preference really. Maybe if you're like going round curves, maybe you just, you end up using the tip of the blade a little bit more. But yeah, I find that the 21cm is sort of suited me quite well. I really like the kind of feel of them. So we do also have just regular dressmaking scissors as well, with regular blades which can be sharpened. So there is that option too. And they come in a few different sizes as well. We've also got a 23cm in that one. So the 25, the 21, and then the 23, and the sort of regular blades. But as well as having a decent pair of scissors for cutting fabric, it is also useful to have a smaller pair of scissors as well. We've got a few different options for that, which are quite fun. These cute little colourful ones here from the Prim Love range, with those nice turquoise and pink handles, and then the little stork ones too. And then also good for grading seam allowances, where you want to you've got two seam allowances together, but you want to just cut one of them if it's a sort of bulkier fabric. These applique scissors with the duct bills are really good for that. And the idea is that duct bill, or that sort of curved section on one of the blades, helps to just hold the other area, the other section of fabric out of the way, basically, to make it a little bit easier. So yeah, if you find it kind of tricky to grade your seam allowances, then that is something that can really help as well. Obviously, over the years, cutting out your dressmaking projects with a rotary cutter has become a lot more popular as well. You just need a bit more kit to do that sort of setup, because you need the cutting mats to put out as well. You need some sort of pattern weights, which can be as simple as like cans of food from your cupboard, or you can get specific pattern weights as well. But this is a really lovely, nice, colourful rotary cutter. Again, it's from the Prim Love range, so it's nice and bright, and it's got a sort of soft ergonomic handle to it as well. So yeah, that is another option if you're looking to sort of vary how you cut out your fabric. I personally feel like for cutting out fabric, It tends to be, if it's like lighter weight fabric, like very fine viscose, for example, it can be sometimes a bit easier, a bit quicker to cut out with a rotary cutter. But again, it just sort of depends on the kind of setup you've got at home, and if you've got space to lay out those big cutting mats and space to store them as well. Quite a lot of people store them under their sofa because you have to keep them flat. So yeah, that's just another thing to consider. In the vein of things that cut as well, another useful thing is a buttonhole cutter, which is effectively like a little chisel. So it's nice and sharp at the blade. Again, you need a self-healing mat to do this on, because you know the blade is sharp. You need something that it's going to go into, otherwise you'll damage the surface that you're doing it on. I have in the past before used a little wooden block as well, but I feel like that can sometimes blunt the blade a little bit quicker. So a little self-healing mat is best for that. And it can just be a really nice, quick and accurate way of cutting out your buttonholes rather than sort of trying to get in there with a pair of scissors. So a nice little tool to add to your kit if you like sewing buttonholes. The next category that I wanted to chat to you about was things that you use to measure. And these are some of the things I use a lot, again, in my own dressmaking. Key thing is a tape measure. Now, if you don't have a tape measure that has centimetres and inches on it, I would recommend that you get one. The other really good thing about this one is that it starts at it's double-sided, and it's like the opposite way around, so it doesn't matter what end of the measuring tape that you look at, you can just flip it over to find the start of it, which can be really useful, because then if you accidentally pick it up at one end, you know, it doesn't matter. You can always just get to the start. You can always get to number one. And I personally just find that having the inches and centimetres right next to each other as well can be really useful, because I tend to work with a mixture of different patterns. Sometimes they're in centimetres, sometimes they're in inches, and my brain can kind of switch between the two sometimes. So just having something there that basically just converts it in front of your eyes can be really, really handy and useful. And then I've also got a couple of little sort of smaller rulers and measuring things, sort of seam gauges, good for hems, or just if you have to sort of draw in any markings or kind of, you know, measure any sort of smaller lengths. It can be quite handy to have a tool that's not floppy like a tape measure to measure it. This one with the little slider here can be quite good, because you can just kind of slide it to whatever measurement you're doing. I tend to use this one a lot, but I know a lot of the staff in the shop like this one that's got the little slider on it here. And then we've had this one come in new. I've not actually had a chance to have a good play around with it, but it's one of those flexible rulers. So if you are somebody who likes maybe doing some adaptations to sewing patterns, maybe like redrawing necklines, or, you know, where you have to kind of true seams if you've made like any adjustments or lengthening or anything like that, then the curved rule can be quite good. And it also has centimetres and inches marked on it as well, so it can be good to help measure things too. Maybe if you needed to measure like the curve of a sleeve head or an armhole opening, for example, then it can be quite good and useful to measure that. But then also you can use it to draw, and you can curve it to whatever shape it needs to be as well. So again, if you are somebody who does tend to sort of adapt patterns and kind of change things a little bit, then that might be a useful thing to look into. The next category that I wanted to chat to you about was getting organised, because I think that can be a really good part of your hobby as well, is that not only are you actually making something too, it can be quite satisfying just to play about with all the things that you have that are related to your hobby as well. So whether you're sort of organising it to make it look pretty, or you're just organising it so that you can kind of have to hand the things that you need when you want them, then there's various different things that you can get to sort of help support that. So these were really popular last year as well. These are the pattern trace needle boxes, and you can customize them using the sticker that's inside. So it's got 8 different compartments, and depending on what needles you use, you can just stick the stickers on the outside for the size and the type of needle it is. And then they're just the right size for putting in your little packets of machine needles into them. If you've already used a needle, but you want to remember that you've used it, that it's not brand new, but you want to keep it with that kind of category of needle, then the little the little loop dots that are on the inside, you can just stick the needle into there, and then, you know, it keeps it in that category. It's easy to pull it out again, but you know it's not brand new. So obviously, depending on, you know, your projects and your fabric and everything, sometimes you might think, oh yeah, I'll just use that, I've only used it once before, or no, I want a brand new needle or whatever. So it just helps to distinguish them and maybe help you to keep your needles for a bit longer as well. Rather than kind of forgetting what they are when you switch them out and then just sort of getting rid of them. So yeah, that's the needle case organizer. Then there's also the spool pod as well, which is really good for keeping your reels of cotton and your matching bobbin together, and it can, you know, it's just quite a handy way to sort of keep them nice and flat. It might be that you're sort of putting it in a drawer or a box or whatever, so they fit the Gutermann reels of thread, and then just with a bobbin at the top. So yeah, just a handy way to keep them together. And then we have got, this has been so popular so far since it came in, the Kylie and the Machine Fabric ID tape. So this is basically like a masking tape that's got sections on it that you write on, and you can write the details of your fabric. So it's a really good way to organise your fabric stash and to remember how big a bit of fabric is, if you washed it or not, the details of it on the actual fabric. I know a lot of people like to sort of keep logs in various other places, but I think this really helps you to, you know, where your fabric is and the place that you keep it, to just have a reference on the actual fabric as well. So it's just, yeah, just a kind of another way to do it. So it is masking tape. It does peel off quite easy. I don't think it leaves a sticky residue or anything. You could just stick it on close to the selvage. Or what you can also do as well is kind of fold it in half and then just catch a little bit of the edge of the fabric in it as well, so it sort of hangs off like a tab. So, you know, whatever way works for you to be able to sort of access it quickly. I guess the thinking is really that you can kind of see what a length of fabric is without having to kind of pull it out and look at it. You can just see your little reference notes as it's kind of stacked in your cupboard and your drawer and wherever you keep your fabric. So yeah, that's been really, really popular for people getting their fabrics organised. And then another sort of fabric organisation idea is the fabric swatch book. So I think this is really good if you're still sort of building up your knowledge and confidence of knowing what different fabrics are, what they feel like, what their thickness is, kind of how they behave. And really what you can do is it's just got lots of little sections in it where you can attach a swatch of the fabric. I would probably just staple it on so that it was still kind of loose and you could still pick it up and feel it. And then you can write some details about it, how much you've got, where you got it, the weight, you know, that sort of thing. And it can help you kind of build up a really nice reference of different types of fabrics, so that when you come to make another project and you're thinking about what type of fabric to use, then you can, you know, you've got something that you can kind of compare and reference to. Especially good, I think, if you buy a lot of your fabrics online and you're still getting used to, you know, just the kind of terminology or like the way that fabrics are described, the different types of fabrics they are, because obviously there's only so much you can glean from looking at a listing online. We do have videos now on all of our fabric listings on the website, and you know, we have the information on the weights and, you know, all of that sort of thing there too, but there is nothing quite like actually feeling the fabric as there, let's face it. And then a few little sort of notebooks and pads and things that can also help to keep you organised as well. So we've got the Maker's Workbook, which has just got lots of different sections and boxes and stuff to fill in details of the projects that you've made. So just another really nice way to sort of keep track and log your projects. So yeah, another nice way to keep organised with your projects. We've also got the garment planner as well. So this can be quite good if you're trying to work out all of the different things you need. It's effectively like creating a bit of a shopping list and making sure that you've got everything you need for a particular project as well. So you can put in, you know, how much fabric that you need, any bits and pieces that you need with it as well. And it's just a good way to sort of get your head around what you actually need to get, whether you're maybe visiting a shop like ours and, you know, you need a little list to be organised of what you need it for, or, you know, you just want to get a list of stuff that you're trying to find online. Is another way to keep track of what you need. And then these have been really popular as well. These are the pattern storage envelopes. So these are really good if you like using PDF patterns and you want something to sort of be able to fit those PDF patterns in once you've used it. they're nice and big. They're gusseted envelopes, so you know they can hold a fair amount because they can sort of expand with the paper. And you know, you could definitely just put regular traditional printed patterns in them as well if you kind of find it hard to get them back into the original envelope they came in. I know I've been there before. But yeah, I would say especially if you do like working with PDF patterns, it can be a nice way to sort of store them in these envelopes. They come in packs of 10. And then yeah, you've obviously got your notes on the outside where you can log what the pattern is. Okay, next up I have got the Prim Vario pliers and the new creative tool as well. So if you like doing projects where you're putting press fasteners on, or maybe some eyelets or rivets or jeans buttons, maybe on like a jeans jacket or on actual jeans or trousers, then the pliers and the creative tool are both really good ways of applying them. So with the Vario pliers, they've been around for much longer. You might have seen my videos on these before. They help you just to really precisely kind of have a bit more control and precision, you know, when you're applying those types of fastenings to your projects, as opposed to the other alternative being just using a hammer basically, and having to kind of hammer them on to secure them, which can be quite tricky because you have to like hit the hammer at the right angle and everything, whereas with the pliers, you know, you're in much more control of that. The thing with the pliers is that you do still need a decent amount of grip strength. So I always suggest like using both hands, holding it as close to the bottom of the pliers as you can, because then you have more force going through the top. But you do still need a fair amount of grip strength, I would say. So the new creative tool that Prim have brought out, which is a bit more of an investment, but if you use these types of fastenings a lot in your projects, it definitely does make it easier. So this is it here. Again, you might have seen my videos on this before. I've got a much more in-depth one on my YouTube channel. But effectively it's like a lever that you're attaching onto the table. You can use it either with or without the clamp. This clamp is like an additional thing that you can get with it, which helps to just sort of stabilize it on your table. But effectively it's almost like you're using your whole arm weight to push down. So rather than having to like grip with your hands, you're just lining everything up. You know, you're putting your, you know, the tool set for your fastening in, and then you're just pressing the lever down, so you can kind of get more of your body weight into it, I guess, which makes it much easier because the force isn't just going through your grip strength of your wrists. It's kind of going through your whole shoulder, and you kind of get your body into it a little bit more. So it does make it much easier to put them on. But it is a little bit more of an investment. So if you are thinking about this one, I would suggest checking out my video for the pliers and for the creative tool as well, because it shows you all the different things that you can use it for, from like little jersey press snaps. We've got the plastic snaps, and then, as I said before, the rivets, the eyelets, the jeans buttons. There's lots of different things that you can use it for. So yeah, if you like attaching those types of things to your projects, they are really useful things to have. And for the pliers, we've also got the little case as well, which keeps them nice and organised, again from that Prim Love range, so it's just nice and bright and colourful. Now, the next category of things that I've got to show you are all related to pressing and ironing. And I would say arguably after your sewing machine and overlocker, if you've got one, the next key piece of machinery that you need, or like a piece of equipment that you need to get a really good finish on your dressmaking sewing projects, is a good iron that generates steam. I don't have an iron to show you here, but I do have accessories that help you with the process of ironing, and it can just really help you get a much better finish on your project. So there's the tailor's ham, good for things like darts and pressing sleeve heads. Remember, when you're dressmaking, you are making things that are 3D, so trying to press things flat on your ironing board can sometimes be a bit awkward, or you know, it's like hard to get in at the right angle. So having something like a tailor's ham where it's shaped and you can kind of move the fabric over it can just help you to press things that are effectively 3D. Similarly with the sleeve roll as well. So obviously it's longer and thinner for getting into sleeves or sort of narrower sections as well. And again, it's sort of shaped. You know, you probably could use the sleeve roll for some of the things. You could use the ham for. Obviously, you're not really going to get a ham into a sleeve. So if you had to pick one, it might be maybe you might want to go for the sleeve one first, because you could maybe try and use it for some of the stuff that you use the ham for. But you know, they're both useful. I have them both at home. We have them in the studio here as well, and it does just make pressing certain things much easier. The other thing that's been really popular over the years as well are the hot hemmers, the clover hot hemmers, and we now have them in centimetres and inches as well. And they are basically like quite firm felt grids, and you can press them with the iron. So the idea is that you're kind of folding fabric over it. You're using the grid lines that are on it to help you measure as you're folding and pressing back. And then, you know, it can withstand the heat, it can take the heat, it doesn't distort or sort of change. So it can just help you to kind of measure and press at the same time. And it just makes that process of measuring and pressing at the same time a bit easier. So yeah, they come in centimetres and inches depending on what measurement you prefer to work in. And then there's the longer one. So, you know, obviously you've got like a longer kind of thinner section with that one. So if you were doing a hem or something, for example, whereas with the kind of smaller ones, you can still do those types of things. You just have to keep repositioning it more frequently. So this was the first one that I had, this smaller one, and you know, I find it useful for most things. But I guess it just depends what type of things you find like you're ironing a lot. But you know, for something that does actually look quite simple, you'd be surprised at how useful it actually is. And then there is the clapper as well, the wooden clapper. So if you're working with woolen fabric, this is, you know, fantastic. I can't recommend it enough. It will definitely make a difference to the seams that you sew and press if you're working with woolen fabric. Can also be useful generally for thick fabrics as well though, and basically you use it just by having lots of steam in your iron, steaming the fabric and pressing it, but then sort of applying pressure with a wooden clapper on top, and it just helps that the wood sort of absorbs the moisture, it absorbs the heat, it kind of compresses everything, you know, with that nice flat surface, and it just helps to sort of bed the fabric into the seam a little bit more, and it just to sit a lot flatter. So it can really elevate like the finish and the kind of crispness of projects, especially when you're working with woolen fabric. This next little group of products are all themed around magnets, and you'd be amazed at what different types of magnets you can get to help with your sewing. So this one I think is especially fun. It is a little kind of mini magnet that's got a suction on the back that you can put onto your sewing machine, and it is the shape or silhouette of a cat. I think it's really cool. If you like cats, I'm sure you're going to love this. So yeah, it's just useful to have something that's quite nearby that you can just pop your pins onto. So yeah, I mean, definitely if you like cats and you like sewing and your pins get in the way when you're at your sewing machine, then this is definitely for you. There is also the magnetic seam gauge as well. So this is really useful for helping you maintain a consistent seam allowance when you're sewing. So if you find it quite hard to line the raw edge of your fabric up with those guidelines that are on the plate of your sewing machine, or maybe you find them quite hard to see, then this can really help with that, because you can just position it on wherever you need to, and you can line it up with those grid lines that are on your sewing machine, and it just acts as more of a visual aid because it's then sticking up. You can make sure that your fabric is actually touching it, and yeah, if maintaining a consistent seam allowance is something that you find tricky, then this is really, really useful for that. And then another couple of things just to keep pins under control are if you fancy a little bracelet to wear. So it's like one of those fun snap bracelets that you had perhaps when you were a child. Snap it on, and then it's got the little magnet there that you can pop your pins onto, so you've always just kind of got pins attached to you safely, just, you know, for doing any pinning that you need to, taking or removing pins. And then we've got a few different types of pin magnets as well. So the Primlove one that does come with some pins. We've got the other one that's like a little heart shape that's got a couple of grooves in here as well. And then we've got our own one. These are locally made and they're made out of beechwood, and they've got, so it's wooden, but it's got a magnet sunk into the bottom as well, and with a little G&G stamp on it too. So they're nice and easy to pick up. They've sort of got grooves in the sides so you can pick them up nice and easy. They go really well with the clapper that I was showing you before earlier as well. It's made from the same wood. So yeah, if you want something that's got a bit more of a natural aesthetic to it, then this one's really nice. This is the one that I use myself at home. And then the final little magnet thing is something that might surprise you, is a needle twister. I have one of these at home as well. It basically works like a lipstick, and that you twist the bottom and then something pops up, and then it's got a magnet at the bottom, so all of the needles stick to the magnet at the bottom, so as you're kind of spinning up, the needles fan out, and then they're really easy to pick up and take out. And then you just roll it down, pop the lid on, and yeah, it sort of keeps them all together. So that's a really handy thing as well. Again, the Primlove range in that nice bright turquoise colour. These next things that I've got to show you, various variations of essentially the same thing, is the fabric clips. So you can get them either in a nice fun heart box like this, or you can get them just as a little pack. So that's all the sort of smaller ones, and then this is a mixed pack, so it's got some bigger clips in it as well. You would basically use these in place of pins. So maybe if you were working with a very thick fabric or lots of layers and it was like hard for you to get the pins in, or if you didn't want to damage the fabric with pins, so maybe it was a fabric you didn't want to snag with pins, then you can use the clips instead to hold the raw edges together as you come to sew it. So with the popularity of like the quilted fabrics and the kind of fur-backed fabrics, we've had a lot of those types of fabrics in the shop this season as well. These can be really good for that, because sometimes your pins can get a bit lost in those kind of thick fluffy fabrics, or it's just hard to like accurately pin, because when you pin really thick fabrics or lots of layers, it can sort of distort the fabric a little bit, whereas the clips just kind of hold it together much easier, and yeah, they're kind of, they're nice and easy to take on and off. So depending on what type of fabrics you're working with, that might be something to have a little think about as well. Now, if you are looking for something to keep all of your little bits and pieces together, we do have a really lovely range of different sewing boxes this year too, which all come empty, so they're then free for you to fill up with all of your bits and pieces. So lots of nice designs, some spotty ones. We've got this really nice fun gingham one as well, which I really like. So then a little tray with various compartments at the top, and then just like a nice big section at the bottom. So you get your scissors and any sort of larger items in there as well, and then a little section for some pins, or maybe you've got some pin badges you want to keep in there or something, a little elasticated pocket section too. So yeah, if you sew in a shared space and you kind of need would like your sewing supplies to kind of look pretty and organized, then getting a nice box to keep your key pieces in can be something that's really nice to do. We do also have the mixed boxes as well, which come filled already, so they've got compartments in them too, and then a larger compartment at the bottom, but they come with the stuff already in it. So yeah, it's a really good starter set. So maybe if you've just got a kind of bit of an odd compilation of different tools and equipment and things, maybe you've inherited it over the years or whatever, and you just kind of want to start afresh, it kind of covers lots of different things, from scissors, unpickers, it's got some of the clips, a chalk, the seam gauge, the little ruler as well, hand sewing needles, little strawberry pin cushion too. So yeah, it's a good starter kit basically, and then it actually comes in quite a nice handy box as well, which is good. So 2 different colours of that one. We've got the turquoise, and then we've got the pink one as well. And then finally, just a little bit of fun at the end, because when you make your own projects, it's just nice to personalise them with something, whether that's for yourself or you're gifting it to a loved one as well. And also, practically speaking, out of experience, it is very useful to mark the back neckline of some of the garments that you might make as well. I can't tell you how many things over the years that I've made and I've not put anything in the back neckline, and every time I come to wear it, I'm like, what way is the back again? So yeah, adding some labels to your garments is just like a little nice touch, and also practically quite useful as well. So we've got a really lovely range of all the different Kylie and the machine labels that come in these little nice packs here. They're nice and colourful and say various different things on them. If you want to keep those labels organised, we've got the Kylie and the Machine collector's tin as well, which is just a nice pretty little tin that you can keep them in. So that makes quite a nice gift too, you know, if you've got the tin and then a couple of little labels to put in it as well. I have one of these at home and my kids absolutely love it because it's stuffed full of labels and they think it's like some kind of treasure when they open it, and they like sort of picking out their favourite one. So yeah, if you like collecting labels, then it can be quite a fun way to keep them organised. And then we've got the new for this year, the little festive baubles. And two different designs, not only labels in here, but they also have the little gauge as well. So this helps you just to position your labels depending on what your seam allowance is. So it can be quite a good guide to help you just line things up. You can get these seam gauges individually as well as like a separate item, but yeah, they come in the little box with a selection of different labels that you can't get singly, and also a fun little pin badge as well. So yeah, we've got the two different colorways of that one, and then we do still have some of the countdown calendars. These were from last year, so they are actually in the sale now, but they're not labeled for a year or anything. They're actually labeled countdown calendar, so it's not specifically linked to Christmas. You could count down to anything, birthday, whatever, and this has got a really nice selection of loads of different labels in it as well, which are all behind fun little windows, so you could either just go for it and have a cup of tea and just dive right in and open them all up, quite satisfying, or you could actually count down to something and keep the suspense going with a little surprise every day of what you're going to get. But yeah, there's a really nice selection of various different things in that one as well. As it was last year's, you can see the contents of that. I'm pretty sure we've got a picture of it on the website now as well, of what the insides all are, so you can actually check you would want them, but still fun to open it all the same. Who doesn't like opening lots of little windows in something? So I hope you've enjoyed having a little look around all of those different things. I know it's been a lot, but sometimes it's just useful to hear different ideas and just sort of different things that are out there and things that you might want to get to just play around with. That's the good fun thing about sewing and dressmaking, is it's always just something fun extra to try. So I've made a blog post that groups all of these things together, where you can have a look through it and see all the different categories of products that I've selected, and yeah, that's probably the easiest way to find them on the website, so I'll link to that in the description to this video. If you've got any questions or anything at all, then please feel free to leave a comment below. If you need any help with anything, probably the quickest way to get an answer is to either call or email the shop, and the G&G team and I are always more than happy to help or answer any questions, so do just get in touch if you need help with anything. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, then don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss out on my next video, and I will see you next time. Bye!